There is a particular kind of tiredness that only comes after a very long day. Not the sharp, urgent tiredness of staying up too late, but the soft, heavy kind that settles into your shoulders after hours of moving through a world that never quite slowed down for you. That is a tiredness you carry with you tonight. As you hurry across the station concourse, your shoes echoing on the old stone floor, your breath fogging faintly in the cool night air. You had missed your train, then the next one, then the one after that. Each time you arrived at the platform, just as the doors closed, just as a whistle sounded, just as the taillights slipped away into the dark. By the third missed train, you had stopped hurrying quite so much. There was no point, really. The night stretched out ahead of you regardless, long and quiet, and the station had a strange, comfortable emptiness to it now that the evening rush had faded away. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, casting a warm amber glow across the empty benches. A few pigeons shuffle along the rafters far above, murmuring to each other in that low, sleepy way pigeons do when the day is finally over. Somewhere, a vending machine hums. It is the only sound beside your own footsteps. You check the departures board, half expecting it to be blank at this hour. But there, glowing quietly at the bottom of the list, is one final entry. Midnight train, platform 9 destination. Somewhere. You blink at it, read it again. It does say somewhere. Not a typo, not a placeholder, not a glitch in the old mechanical letters. Just that single word, sitting calmly where a city name should be. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. You are tired enough that any train would do, any direction would do, so long as it means you can finally sit down, close your eyes, and let the world drip by outside a window instead of underneath your own 2 feet. So you make your way toward platform 9, your footsteps slowing now, matching the unhurried rhythm of the station itself. The platform is nearly empty. A single lamp flickers at the far end, its light pooling on the worn concrete. The rails gleam faintly, disappearing into darkness in both directions. And there, waiting beside the open door of the last carriage, stands a conductor. He is an older man, dressed in a deep navy uniform with brass buttons that catch what little light there is. His face is calm, weathered, unreadable in a way that faces become after many years of quiet work. He holds out a gloved hand for the ticket, and you realize only then that you are holding one, a plain paper ticket, slightly worn at the corners, though you don't remember buying it. The conductor takes it without comment, turns it over once, and tucks it into his breast pocket. Then he looks up, and for a moment his calm expression softens into something that might be concern, or might simply be the tiredness of a long night's work settling over him too. If you hear your name called at any station, he says, his voice low and even, almost gentle, don't get off. You wait for more, an explanation perhaps, or at least a small smile to suggest it is some kind of joke, the sort of thing conductors say to keep long night shifts interesting, but none comes. The conductor only steps aside and gestures toward the open door, patient and unhurried, as though he has all the time in the world and expects nothing more than for you to simply climb aboard. So you do. The carriage is warm, dimly lit, and smells faintly of old velvet and rain. Rows of high-backed seats line either side of the aisle, most of them empty. A handful of other passengers sit scattered here and there. A woman reading a paperback with a soft, steady focus. An elderly man already asleep with his head against a window. A young couple murmuring quietly to each other in a language you don't recognize. None of them look up as you pass. None of them seem the least bit concerned about where the train might be going. You find a seat near the middle of the carriage, by a window still speckled with the last of the evening's rain, and lower yourself into it with the reticular relief of someone whose legs have been asking to sit down for hours. The seat is soft, worn in a comfortable way, the way old furniture is worn, shaped gently by countless other tired travelers before you. Outside, the platform lamp flickers once more. The conductor climbs aboard last, the door sliding shut behind him with a soft, final click, and then, without any lurch or announcement, the train begins to move. The station lights slide past the window slowly at first, then gather speed, blurring into long amber streaks against the darkness. You watch them go with the pleasant, empty-headed attention of someone who has nowhere else to be. The rhythm of the wheels on the track begins to settle into something steady and familiar. A soft clack, 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 clack. The kind of sound that seems built specifically for tired minds to hold on to. Rain still traces its way down the glass in thin, wandering lines. Beyond it, the city continues for a while. Rows of sleeping apartment buildings, the dark shapes of warehouses, a lit-up gas station standing alone at a crossroads, its forecourt empty. You watch a single car pull away from the pumps and vanish down a side street. And then there are no more cars at all. The other passengers around you settle deeper into their own private stillness. The woman with the paperback turns a page with a soft, unhurried rustle. The elderly man's breathing slows into the long, even rhythm of proper sleep. Even a young couple grow quiet, their heads resting together, eyes closed, the murmur of their conversation dissolving into the general hush of the carriage. You let your own eyes rest on the window, not quite focusing on anything. The way you look at things right before sleep takes you, softly, without demand. The city thins into suburbs, and the suburbs thin into scattered farmhouses. Single windows glowing warm against the dark fields around them. Somewhere out there, people are finishing their evenings, turning off lamps, pulling blankets up over their shoulders. You feel, in a distance away, connected to all of it and separate from all of it once, cocooned inside this warm, gently rocking carriage while the whole sleeping world rolls by outside. The overhead lights dim slightly, as though the train itself understands it is carrying people toward rest and wants to help. A small reading lamp above your seat stays lit, casting a soft circle of gold onto the seat back in front of you. But you don't feel like reading. You simply want to watch the darkness go by, to feel the gentle sway of the carriage beneath you, to let the last of the day's tension unspools slowly out of your shoulders. After a while, you couldn't say exactly how long, because time has already begun to soften and blur, the way it does on very late journeys. The farmhouses disappear too. There is only open countryside now, rolling and dark, the shapes of distant hills just barely visible against a sky heavy with clouds. The rain has stopped, though the window still holds a few last drops that tremble and slide whenever the train rounds a gentle curve. You notice, without quite noticing, that you can no longer see the moon. It should be there. It was a clear evening earlier, before rain came in. But the sky now is simply dark, uniformly dark, without any stars or moonlight breaking through. You don't think much of it. Clouds cover the moon all the time. It is the kind of detail a tired mind slides past easily, filed away without concern. And you let it go the way you let go of most small oddities when your whole body is asking you to rest. The train rocks gently side to side, side to side, the motion almost like being carried, like being held. Somewhere far ahead, you hear the low, mournful call of the train's horn, sounding once into the night as though announcing itself to the empty land around it. And then, gradually, you feel the train begin to slow. A voice crackles softly over the intercom, warm and slightly muffled, the way old speaker systems always sound. You don't quite catch all the words, only fragments. Approaching, please mind, and then more clearly a single name, Ash Hollow. The train eases into the station with a long, slow exhale of brakes, the kind of sound that seems to settle into your chest and loosen something there. You sit up just slightly, curious despite your tiredness, and look out through the rain-flecked glass. Ash Hollow is small, smaller than small. The sort of station that seems to exist only because a single platform and a single sign were once placed there long ago, and no one ever thought to remove them since. A thick fog is gathered around the platform, rolling low with concrete and slow, unhurried waves, the way fog does in places that rarely see the sun. The station lamp, there is only one, flickers weakly at the end of the platform, its light barely strong enough to hold back the mist around it. You press your forehead lightly against the cool glass, watching. No one waits on the platform. No suitcase, no huddled figure, no late arriving passenger hurrying to catch the last train. Just a fog, drifting quietly past the empty benches, curling around the base of the flickering lamp, settling into every corner of the small, forgotten station. And then you notice the clock. It hangs above the station sign, an old-fashioned thing with a round white face and delicate black hands. The kind of clock that might have once told the correct time to a much busier platform decades before. Its hands are moving, slowly, steadily, but backward. The minute hand creeps counterclockwise around the face in smooth, unhurried sweeps, and the hour hand follows along behind it, equally patient, equally wrong. You watch it for a long moment, feeling that particular, floaty kind of curiosity that comes right at the edge of sleep, when strange things register as merely interesting rather than alarming. A backward clock. You suppose, somewhere in the back of your tired mind, that it makes a certain kind of sense, that a station that's quiet, that's forgotten, might simply have slipped a little out of time altogether, ticking gently away from the rest of the world instead of along with it. The fog thickens for a moment, swallowing the far end of the platform entirely. And when it thins again, you almost expect something to have changed. But nothing has. The bench is still empty. The lamp still flickers. The clock's hands continue their slow backward journey, indifferent to anything that might be watching. No one boards. No one steps off. The doors, which open somewhere down the length of the train with a soft pneumatic hiss, close again after a minute or two without a single passenger passing through them. It is as though the station exists simply to be visited, not used. A quiet stop along the route where the train pauses out of habit, or perhaps out of respect, before continuing on into the dark. You find yourself unbothered by any of it. There is something almost soothing about a place with nothing expected of it. A place where no one needs to hurry, where even time itself seems content to wander backward instead of forward. You let your eyes drift shut for a moment, just resting them, still aware of the fog outside, the flickering lamp, the slow counterclockwise sweep of that pale clock face. When the train shudders gently and begins to move again, sliding the little station away into the mist behind you, you open your eyes just enough to watch it go. The lamp shrinks to a small little light in the fog, then vanishes altogether. The clock, you imagine, is still there, still turning backward, keeping whatever strange time it keeps for whoever might pass through next. The carriage settles back into its steady rhythm. Clack, 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 clack. Rain has started again, very lightly now. No more than a soft patter against glass, and beyond it, the darkness has returned to its ordinary shape. Rolling hills, distant tree lanes, the occasional glint of water in a field somewhere far off. You let your head rest back against the seat, feeling heavier now, feeling the day's tiredness pulling gently at the edges of your thoughts. Little by little, you become aware that the train is climbing. The rhythm of the wheels changes subtly. The engine's low hum deepening as it works harder against a gradient you can't quite see, but can certainly feel. A gentle, persistent pull backward into your seat. The kind of sensation that comes from a long, slow ascent. You open your eyes properly again and look out the window, and what you see makes you sit up a little straighter. All thoughts of sleep momentarily forgotten in favor of simple wonder. Mountains. Vast, snow-covered mountains, rising on either side of the train in pale, moonless silver, their peaks disappearing somewhere above into low, drifting cloud. It seems impossible that the flat countryside from only minutes before could have given way so completely to this. Towering slopes, deep folds of shadow, snow that seems to glow faintly with its own quiet light, even without a moon to reflect. But there it is, unfolding outside your window as naturally as anything, as though the train has simply always been climbing toward it. The tracks hug the side of a long ridge, curving gently along a route carved into the mountainside itself. Far below, in a valley thick with snow, you begin to make out shapes, small clusters of rooftops, the outlines of a village, tucked into a fold of the landscape as though sheltering from the cold. You watch more closely as the train's slow curve brings the village into fuller view. It is abandoned. You can tell that much even from a distance. Snow lies heavy and undisturbed across every rooftop, drifted deep against every door, filling every window ledge in soft, unbroken white. No lights burn in any of the houses. No paths have been shoveled between them. It has a particular, aching stillness of a place that people simply stopped living in long enough ago that the snow has reclaimed it entirely. And yet, smoke rises from several chimneys. Thin gray threads of it curl up into the night sky. Unhurried, steady, exactly the sort of smoke that comes from a well-tended hearth on a cold evening. You lean closer to the glass, half convinced your tired eyes are inventing it. But the smoke continues, drifting lazily upward from 3, 4, 5 different chimneys scattered across the sleeping village. You search the snow around the houses for any sign of movement. A door swinging open, a curtain shifting, footprints leading between one building and the next. There is nothing. The snow lies perfect and unbroken in every direction, smooth as a blank page, without so much as a single mark disturbing its surface. No one has walked between those houses in a very long time, and still the smoke rises, patient and constant, as though someone or something continues to keep the fires burning inside homes that no one ever seems to enter or leave. The train continues its long climb, the village slowly slipping from view behind a fold of rock, replaced by more slopes, more snow, more silent peaks rising into the clouded dark. You find you aren't frightened by what you've seen, only quietly, deeply curious, the way you might feel looking at a photograph of somewhere impossibly far away, a place that exists but that you would never actually visit, never actually understand. The higher you climb, the colder the window feels beneath your fingertips when you rest them lightly against the glass. Frost has begun to form at the very edges, delicate feathery patterns creeping in from the corners, and your breath fogs the pain whenever you lean close enough. Outside, the wind must be fierce. You can see loose snow lifting off distant ridgelines in long pale streamers. But inside the carriage, everything remains warm, still, and quiet, the gentle rocking of the train carrying on beneath you like a slow, patient heartbeat. Eventually the track begins to level, the engine's labor hum easing back into its familiar steady rhythm, and the mountains begin very gradually to recede behind you. For a long while after the mountains, there's only darkness outside the window, the ordinary comfortable kind, unbroken by strange smoke or backward clocks, just a quiet black of open country sliding past. You let your eyes close properly this time, resting them fully, and allow the rhythm of the train to carry your thoughts somewhere soft and formless, somewhere between waking and sleep. You aren't sure how long that gentle drifting lasts. Long enough that when you finally open your eyes again, blinking slowly against the dim carriage lights, the quality of the sound outside has changed. The steady clack of wheels on rail has grown quieter, smoother somehow, as though the tracks themselves have softened. You look out and find, to your mild and distant surprise, that there is no ground beneath the train at all. Water, an endless expanse of dark. Still water stretches out in every direction, reaching all the way to a horizon you can barely distinguish the sky above it. The train continues along its tracks as though nothing at all is unusual, gliding forward across the surface of what can only be described as an ocean, though no ocean you have ever heard of runs this smooth, this glassy, this utterly without motion. There is no bridge. You search for one instinctively, the way anyone would some structure of steel or stone holding the rails above the water. But there is nothing. The tracks simply continue on, unsupported, resting somehow on the still black surface, as easily as they rested on solid ground only hours before. The train does not question it, neither after the first startled moment. Do you? Moonlight. Though you still can't locate the moon itself anywhere in the clouded sky, spills softly across the water surface, catching in long silver ribbons that stretch out toward the horizon. The water is so perfectly still that the reflection seems almost more solid than the sky it mirrors, an inverted world hanging suspended just beneath the train, trembling only very slightly with the faint vibration of the wheels. You notice, glancing around the carriage, that the other passengers have grown quieter still. The woman with the paperback has closed her book at last, resting it face down in her lap, her eyes fixed on the window with the same soft, wordless attention you feel in yourself. Further down the aisle, you see a hand reach up and draw a small curtain closed over one of the windows. Then another passenger does the same, quietly, without any words exchanged. One shade after another slides down across the glass, until the carriage holds only a scattering of open windows, still showing that vast dark water outside. You don't close your own. Something about the stillness of it, the endless black mirror stretching out beneath you, holding the sky so perfectly within itself, feels less like something to fear and more like something to simply witness. The way you might watch a very slow sunset without needing to understand exactly why it moves you. The train's horn sounds once, low and long, and the sound seems to travel an impossibly great distance across the water before fading away entirely, swallowed by all that stillness. No ripple answers it, no bird calls back, only the smooth, unbroken silence of the crossing and the gentle rock of the carriage beneath you, steady as ever, indifferent to the impossible nature of the ground it no longer needs. You rest your temple against the cool glass and watch the silver moonlight light slides slowly across the water's surface, feeling your own eyelids grow heavier with every passing minute. The vast quiet crossing settling over like something almost tangible, almost warm. Gradually, you almost miss the moment it happens. The endless water gives way to land again. You notice it first in the sound. The smooth glide of wheels over still water, replaced once more by the familiar, comforting clack of rail joints passing beneath the carriage. When you look out, the dark ocean has vanished entirely, and in its place stand trees. Not just any trees. They rise thick and close along both sides of the track, tall and ancient looking, their bark dark with age, their upper branches lost somewhere above the reach of the train's lights. And every single one of them leans, gently, deliberately, unmistakably, toward the tracks, as though the whole forest had been standing here for centuries, simply waiting for a train to pass, so that it might lean in and get a closer look. You watch the trees drift by, half expecting the sensation to feel unsettling, but instead feels almost tender, like being surrounded by a crowd of quiet, curious onlookers who mean no harm at all, only wish to watch. The way you might lean in slightly to see something interesting happening nearby, then you notice the lanterns. They hang from nearly every branch, thousands of them, strung along the leaning limbs in loose, uneven clusters, small glass lanterns holding soft, flickering candlelight, the warm orange glow of each one blurring gently into the next as the train moves past. There must be thousands, maybe tens of thousands, stretching back to the trees as far as you can see in either direction, an entire forest lit from within by countless small, patient flames. They sway, all of them in slow, synchronized motion, drifting gently back and forth on their branches. But there's no wind. You can see it clearly. The trees themselves stand still, their leaves undisturbed, not a single branch stirring in any breeze. Only the lanterns move, swinging softly on some rhythm of their own, as though the light itself were breathing. You press close to the glass, captivated despite the low hum of tiredness, still pulling at the edges of your mind. The warm lantern light catches on the deep grooves of the tree bark, on drifting curls of low mist that hover just above the forest floor, on scattered patches of moss glowing faintly green in the candle glow. It is, you think, one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. An entire forest transformed into something between cathedral and a dream. Endless small flames flickering in gentle unison through the dark. And then, at the very edge of the lantern light, you see something move that is not a lantern at all. It keeps pace with the train, just beyond where the warm glow fades into true darkness. The shape, low and quiet, moving between the leaning trunks with an easy, unhurried gait, always staying just out of clear sight, always a little further back than the light can properly reach. You can't make out its size or its shape or anything definite about it all. Only the sense quiet and certain that it is there walking alongside you, matching the train's pace exactly, neither falling behind nor drawing closer. You watch it for a long while, feeling not quite fear, but something more like awareness. The simple, calm recognition that the forest holds more than lanterns and leaning trees, that something else moves through it too, following the light without ever quite stepping into it. You don't feel the need to look away. The presence, whatever it is, seems content simply to walk alongside you, a quiet companion for the stretch of the journey, asking nothing, offering nothing, simply there. Slowly, the lanterns begin to thin. The trees grow a little less crowded, a little less inclined to lean so eagerly toward the tracks. And the shape of the edge of the light, whatever it was, seems to slow, to fall back, to let the train continue on alone into whatever waits next. The forest thins into open darkness once more, and for a stretch of time you simply rest, eyes half closed, lulled by the steady rhythm of the wheels and the warm, dim hush of the carriage around you, when a soft glow begins to build along the horizon ahead. You think at first it might be dawn, but it's far too early for that. And besides, the light has the wrong quality entirely. Too even, too electric, too many small, separate points of brightness to be a sunrise. You sit up slowly as the train carries you closer, and the glow resolves itself into towers. A city rises up out of the darkness ahead of you, vast and gleaming, skyscrapers stretching upward in glittering columns of glass and steel, their windows lit floor after floor after floor. Streetlights line broad avenues in long, orderly rows, each one glowing a soft amber against the night. Somewhere below, you can make out the elevated tracks of a subway system, lights moving steadily along its length. Everything about the city hums with power, with activity, with all the layered brightness of a place fully, completely alive. And yet, as the train draws nearer, gliding onto an elevated track that carries you directly for the heart of it all, you realize there's not a single person anywhere to be seen. The streets stretch out wide and empty below, pristine under their rows of glowing lamps. Not one figure walks along any sidewalk, not one car sits parked at any curb, though you watch with slow, quiet fascination as the traffic lights at a nearby intersection continue their patient, unwatched cycle, red to green to amber and back to red again, governing an intersection with no cars at all to obey them. You look up at the skyscrapers as they slide past, closer now. Close enough to see individual windows, lit warm and golden against the glass. Some hold the soft blue flicker of a television, left playing to an empty room. Some show the gentle sway of curtains, as though a window has been left open somewhere, though you feel no wind against the train itself. In one office tower, row after row of desk lamps glow steadily, illuminating rows of empty chairs, empty desks, paper perhaps still sitting exactly where someone left it. The elevator lights on a building near the tracks blink their way steadily upward. 3, then 5, then 11, then somewhere near the top, carrying, you suppose, absolutely no one at all to whatever floor it has been called to. You find yourself leaning fully against the glass now, sleep forgotten entirely in the face of this vast, humming, powered emptiness. It should feel eerie, you think, and in some distant corner of your mind, perhaps it does. But mostly what you feel is a strange, hushed wonder, the sensation of being allowed to see something that was never meant to be seen by anyone at all. A whole city continuing to run, continuing to shine, continuing to breathe electricity and light into the night, entirely for its own sake, with no one left to notice or to care. The train does not slow. It carries you onward through the city's glittering heart at the same steady, unhurried paces held all night, as though this vast, humming emptiness were simply one more stretch of scenery, no more remarkable to the train itself than a quiet field or a stretch of open water. You pass beneath a great illuminated sign, tall enough to rival the buildings around it, its message scrolling in bright, cheerful letters. An advertisement, you realize, for something you don't recognize, cycling patiently through its rotation for an audience that no longer exists. Beneath it, the plaza opens out, ringed with benches and small manicured trees, a fountain at its center still running, water catching the light in soft, rhythmic arcs, splashing down into a pool with no one nearby to toss in a coin or rest for a moment on its edge. You watch a bus pull slowly away from the stop half a block ahead. Its interior lights glowing warm through tinted windows. Its doors sliding shut with the same soft hydraulic as you heard from your own train, carrying its route forward through empty streets toward empty stops, gathering no one, dropping off no one, simply continuing, because continuing is what is always done. Windows in the apartment towers flicker gently as you pass, not with any sense of urgency, just the occasional soft shift of light behind curtains, a lamp switching off in one room and on in another several floors up, as though the building itself were quietly going about its evening in the absence of anyone to actually live it. You think you see, just once, a shadow pass briefly across a lit window somewhere high above the street. There and then gone, too quick to be certain of, easy enough to dismiss as a trick of the light, or a curtain caught by some draft, or nothing at all. The subway train you noticed earlier crosses paths with yours in an intersection of elevated tracks, gliding past in the opposite direction. Its carriages lit and empty, windows sliding by one after another, each one holding nothing but rows of vacant seats and the soft glow of overhead lights. You watch it disappear behind a curve of glass towers and feel, for just a moment, an odd kinship with it. Another vehicle, another set of tracks, another quiet journey through this glowing, abandoned city, carrying on because that is simply what was built to do. Gradually, the towers begin to thin, the plazas grow smaller, the streets a little narrower, the great illuminated signs giving way to smaller shop fronts, still lit, still humming with a soft glow of unattended interiors. You catch a glimpse of a small cafe, its chairs neatly stacked on its tables, its lights left burning warm and golden behind glass, as though closing time came and went without anyone ever needing to lock the door. The city loosens its grip on the landscape slowly, tower by tower, light by light, until at last the glow begins to fade behind you, swallowed gradually by the returning dark of open country. You keep watching until the very last light, a single street lamp, standing alone at the edge of everything, still patiently illuminating a stretch of empty road, finally slips from view. You let out a slow breath, only then realizing you were holding it, and settle back into your seat, the warm hum of the carriage returning to something more familiar, more soothing, the vast electric hush of the city fading into memory as easily as a dream fades upon waking. The track begins to curve, a long, gentle arc that you feel in the slight lean of your own body against the seat, and outside, a new stretch of water comes into view, not the vast dark ocean from before, but something smaller, calmer, held within the soft dark shapes of low hills on every side. A lake, perfectly round, perfectly still, its surface so smooth and undisturbed that it seems less like water and more like a great sheet of polished glass laid carefully into the landscape. The train follows the curve of its shore, circling slowly around the lake's edge, and you watch the water beside you with the same drowsy, half-focused attention you've given so much of tonight's passing scenery. The reflection of the sky sits trapped within it, upside down and motionless, clouds drifting nowhere at all within that mirrored stillness. Then you notice the train's own reflection. It runs alongside you in the water, a perfect image at first glance. The same warm windows, the same dim golden light spilling from each carriage, the same steady curve following the shoreline. But as you watch, something the shape of it doesn't sit right, and after a moment you understand why. You count the carriages in the reflection, then count again to be sure. There are more of them, twice as many, trailing back along the water's edge far further than your own train could possibly extend. Carriage after reflected carriage stretching away into a hazy, indistinct distance that has no real counterpart on land at all. You lean close to the glass, unsettled now in a way that feels different from the forest or the city or the vast dark water you crossed before. Quieter, more personal, closer to the chest. You trace the reflected carriages one by one, watching their windows glow softly in the still water, watching them stretch on and on well past where your own train should have ended. And in the very last carriage, the one that exists only in reflection, that has no true counterpart riding beside you, you see someone standing, a shape dark against the golden light behind it, framed neatly in the last window of that impossible extra length of train. You can't make out a face or any particular detail at all, only the unmistakable stillness of someone standing exactly where a person stands when they're looking directly at something or someone across a distance, and the shape does not move. It simply stands there in a reflected window, facing back toward you, patient and unhurried, for as long as the lake continues to hold both trains within its glassy stillness. You find you can't look away, not out of fear exactly, but out of the same quiet, suspended fascination that has carried you through so much of the night already. The sense that you are being shown something meant only for you, something the rest of the sleeping carriage around you will never notice or remember. The reflected figure remains precisely where it is, unmoving, watching, as your train continues its slow curve around the water's edge. Only when the lake finally begins to fall behind you, the shoreline curving away from the tracks at last, does the reflection start to blur and lengthen, stretching thin across the disturbed surface until it dissolves entirely into ordinary ripples of moonless light. You keep your eyes on the spot where the extra carriage and its quiet, watching passenger had been, until the lake disappears from view completely, swallowed by the low dark hills rising up once more on either side of the track. You are still turning the image of that reflected figure over in your mind, gently, without alarm, the way you turn over a strange dream the next morning, curious rather than troubled, when you hear the soft, familiar sound of the carriage door sliding open at the front of the car. The conductor steps through, moving down the aisle with the same slow, unhurried gait he had back at the very first platform, pausing beside each seat to check a ticket, nodding once, and moving on. You watch the conductor's progress with mild, drowsy interest, expecting nothing more than the same quiet ritual you've already witnessed twice before. But partway down the aisle, the conductor pauses a beat longer than usual beside an empty seat, one that you're fairly sure was occupied earlier by a passenger in a heavy gray coat, though you can't now recall exactly when you last noticed him there. The conductor studies the empty seat for a moment, his expression unreadable, and then simply continues on, checking the next ticket and the next, as though nothing at all were amiss. No one else in the carriage reacts. The woman with the paper bag doesn't look up. The young couple remain curled together, eyes closed, undisturbed. It's as if the empty seat and whoever once sat in it was simply never worth remarking on at all. You glance toward the seat yourself, curious now despite the pleasant fog of tiredness still wrapped around her thoughts. Where the passenger in the gray coat had been, there now sits a single suitcase, old, battered at the corners, the kind of case that has clearly traveled a great many miles over a great many years. It wasn't there before, you're nearly certain of that, but it sits now exactly where a person had been, tucked neatly against the window, as though it was simply left behind, or as though it had always belonged there, and you'd simply failed to notice it until now. You look around the carriage more carefully after that, doing your own quiet count the way you once counted reflecting just makes everything a little soft around the edges, a little hard to pin down with confidence. But you find yourself fairly sure that there are fewer people scattered to the carriage now than there were when you first sat down. Fewer than at Ash Hollow, fewer than at the mountains. The seats that once held quiet, sleeping strangers now hold only shadows or folded blankets, or the occasional forgotten bag resting undisturbed in an otherwise empty space. No one seems troubled by this. No one seems to notice at all, save for you, watching from your own seat with the same detached, dreamlike curiosity that has carried you through every strange sight so far tonight. The conductor finishes a slow walk down the aisle, tucking the last checked ticket into his breast pocket, and disappears through the door at the far end of the carriage without a word. You settle back once more. The empty seats around you no longer quite so unsettling as they might have been in ordinary daylight, in an ordinary train, on an ordinary night. Here, in this particular carriage, on this particular journey, it seems only natural that some passengers might simply slip away somewhere along the route, leaving behind nothing more than a suitcase and an empty seat, continuing on toward whatever quiet destination has been waiting for them all along. After quiet unease of the emptying carriage, the landscape outside seems to soften in sympathy, as though it understands you need something gentler now, something to rest in without any further mystery pressing against it. The hills fall away entirely, and in their place stretches an enormous, open plain, running flat and unbroken in every direction as far as you can see. Golden grass covers a land tall and soft, bending and long. Slow waves beneath a wind you can feel now, a real wind at last, brushing gently against the side of the train, rippling out across the grass in patterns that seem to have no beginning and no end. The color of it startles you at first, a warm, honey gold that has no business existing under a moonless, starless sky. And yet there it is, glowing softly of its own accord, stretching to every horizon. An enormous moon hangs low over the plain, far larger than any moon you've ever seen, pale and heavy near the horizon, exactly where you'd somehow expected, hoped, it might finally reappear. It does not move. You watch it for what feels like a very long time, and its position against the horizon never shifts, never rises, never sets, simply hanging there in patient, silvery stillness, bathing the endless grass in soft, borrowed light. Nothing else happens for a long while. No stations approach, no strange smoke, no reflections, no whispered names. Just a plain, rolling gently on in every direction, the grass swaying in that same slow, hypnotic rhythm. The enormous, unmoving moon watching over all of it like some vast, gentle guardian. You feel your own body finally begin to soften into the seat beneath you. Tension you hadn't even realized you were still carrying easing slowly out of your shoulders, your jaw, the backs of your eyes. The rhythm of the wheels beneath you seems to slow to match the swaying grass outside. Clack, 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 clack. Unhurried, patient, endless. Time itself seems to loosen its grip out here. You couldn't say whether you crossed the plain in 10 minutes or 2 hours. Both feel equally true, and neither feels particularly important to determine. There's only the grass and the moon and the gentle sway of the carriage and the soft golden light spilling into the window to rest warmly across your hands where they lie folded in your lap. You think, somewhere in the drowsy hush of your own mind, that this must be the quietest place the train has passed through all night. Quieter even than the vast dark water, quieter than the lantern-lit forest, quieter than the humming empty city. There is nothing here demanding to be understood, nothing strange enough to hold your attention hostage. Only space and gold and soft, unmoving light, offering nothing but permission to simply rest. Your eyelids grow heavy. You let them fall, just for a moment, just to rest. Still aware of the golden glow pressing gently against your closed eyes. Still aware of the wind brushing softly along the side of the carriage. Still aware of the endless plain rolling patiently on beneath that vast, watching moon. You aren't sure how long you kept your eyes closed, drifting somewhere pleasant and formless in that soft golden hush, before something, some small, quiet instinct, nudges you gently back toward wakefulness. You open your eyes slowly, still cradled in that loose, comfortable heaviness that sits just before true sleep, and turn your gaze back out toward the window. The plane still rolls on below, gold and endless as before, but something above it has changed. You look up, following the angle of the glass toward the sky, and go very still. There, hanging upside down against the dark expanse above the plane, is another city. It mirrors in its own strange way the glowing metropolis you passed through earlier, towers and lights and long avenues of amber lamps, but inverted entirely, its spires reaching downward instead of up, its lit windows scattered across a skyline that hangs suspended in open air, drifting slowly along above the grass as though the sky itself had simply decided, at some point long ago, to hold a city within it. Clouds move beneath it. Beneath the city, not above it, drifting in slow gray wisp between the plane and the floating skyline, occasionally sliding across a cluster of lights and dimming them for a moment before releasing them again into full soft brightness. You can just make out the suggestion of streets within it. Faint amber lines crisscrossing between the inverted towers, and here and there, small points of light that move along them at a slow, steady pace. Vehicles, perhaps, or something else entirely, traveling along roads that hang impossibly upside down in the open night sky. You wait for some acknowledgement of it from anyone else in the carriage. A gasp, a pointed finger, a murmured comment between two passengers noticing it together for the first time. But no one stirs. No one looks up. The woman with the paperback remains exactly as she was, still and quiet, her book resting closed in her lap. The elderly man sleeps on undisturbed. It's as though the floating city above you is simply understood, simply expected, simply one more unremarkable feature of a landscape that has long since stopped needing anyone's permission to be strange. You don't mind the silence around you. If anything, it makes the sight feel more entirely your own, a private, floating skyline drifting overhead just for you, unremarked upon, unexplained, existing quietly above the golden plain way a second moon might exist, simply because the night has decided it should. You watch a cluster of lights near what might be the city's edge flicker and dim, then brighten again, as a particularly thick tendril of cloud slides slowly past beneath it. The train continues on beneath it all, steady and unhurried, carrying you further across the endless plain while the inverted city drifts along above at its own slow, separate pace, neither catching up nor falling behind, simply keeping a quiet, parallel company with the golden grass and the great unmoving moon and the gentle rhythm of the wheels below. Eventually, so gradually you can't say precisely when it happens, the floating city begins to drift away towards a distant edge of the sky, its lights growing smaller, fainter, more scattered, until at last it slips from view entirely, leaving only the vast moonlit plain and the ordinary dark sky stretching endlessly above it once more. The plain begins at last to narrow. Distant shapes rise slowly on the horizon. Not mountains this time, nor towers, but something lower and more modest, a simple platform emerging gradually out of the golden grass as the train's rhythm eases into familiar, gentle deceleration of an approaching stop. You sit up a little, watching the platform take shape as you draw nearer. It is long, far longer than Ash Hollow was, longer even than seems necessary for a single train to need, stretching off into the dark at both ends, disappearing from view before you can make out where it finally ends. Lamps line its length at even intervals, each one glowing the same soft amber as every station lamp before it, but there are no signs, no station name printed anywhere, no plaque, no marker of any kind to say where exactly you have arrived. The train slows to a full stop alongside the platform, brakes releasing their long, familiar sigh, and for a moment everything is still. Then, from somewhere overhead, a loudspeaker crackles softly to life. A calm, measured voice begins to speak, reading out names, not station names. You realize after a moment, but passenger names, each one followed by a quiet, specific destination. Passenger Whitfield. Your stop is approaching in the next carriage forward. A pause, a soft crackle, then another. Passenger Nkemalu. Please prepare to disembark at the second platform. On it goes, name after unfamiliar name, each one paired with some small, precise instruction delivered in the same unhurried, gentle tone the conductor himself might use. You listen, drowsy and half-curious, waiting for your own name to be called among them, the way you might wait through a long list at a doctor's office, expecting your turn to come eventually, but name after name passes by, and yours doesn't appear among them. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. Perhaps your stop simply hasn't come yet. Perhaps the list will continue on to include you further along. Perhaps this platform simply isn't meant for you at all. Outside the window, you think you catch glimpses of movement along the platform, brief flickers of shape and motion at the very edge of the lamplight, gone again before you can look at them properly. No one boards through your own carriage door. No one steps down from it either. The whole long platform remains, as far as you can tell from your own limited view, entirely, patiently empty. The loudspeaker continues its slow recitation. Name following name following name. You find yourself settling back into your seat, listening without quite listening, the way you might listen to rain falling outside a window, present, steady, not requiring any particular response from you at all. Your own eyes grow heavy again, lulled by the calm, even rhythm of that unfamiliar voice, reading its way patiently through a passenger list that never seems to include the one name you might have expected to hear. The loudspeaker falls silent. The list, apparently, has finally reached its end, and for a long moment the only sound is the low hum of the idling train and the faint whisper of wind moving somewhere out along that endless, lamplit platform. You let your eyes close again, that soft golden tiredness in the plane still lingering warmly behind them, content simply to sit in the quiet and wait for whatever might happen next. The train does not move. It remains exactly where it is, patient, unhurried, as though waiting for something before it can continue on. And then, very quietly, almost too quiet to notice at all, you hear your name. It comes from somewhere out on the platform, soft, familiar, unmistakably your own voice, speaking your name the way you might speak it yourself. If you ever had reason to say it aloud to an empty room, you go very still, your eyes still closed, your heart giving one slow, careful beat before settling back into its steady rhythm. The voice does not call out sharply or urgently, or with any particular emotion at all. It simply says your name, once, gently, the way someone might call to a friend they weren't entirely sure was listening. You think distantly of the conductor's words back at the very first platform. Spoken so long ago, now it feels like a memory from another night entirely. If you hear your name called at any station, don't get off. You hold on to that thought carefully, turning it over in your mind the way you might hold on to a single steady hand drill in the dark. You do not open your eyes. You do not reach for your bag. You do not so much as shift in your seat. The voice comes again, a little softer this time, a little further away, as though whoever or whatever spoken understands already that you aren't going to answer, and is simply offering an invitation once more out of some quiet, patient habit, without any real expectation attached to it. You keep your eyes closed, keep your breathing slow, and even let the sound of your own name drift past you the way you let so many strange sights drift past the window all through this long night. Watched but not touched, witnessed but not entered into. A third time, fainter still, barely more than a whisper carried on whatever thin breeze moves along that empty platform, and then nothing at all. Silence settles back over the carriage, warm and complete, broken only by the familiar, comforting hum of the idling train beneath you. You stay very still for a while longer, eyes closed, simply breathing, letting the last traces of that strange whisper fade fully away before you trust yourself to move again. When at last you do open your eyes, the platform outside looks exactly as it did before. Long, lamplit, empty, it's far and still lost somewhere in the dark. Nothing has changed. No shape lingers at the edge of the light. No further sound comes from anywhere outside the glass. A moment later, without any announcement, without any particular signal that you notice, the train begins to move again, sliding smoothly away from that long, nameless platform, carrying you onward into the dark beyond it. The whisper your own name already beginning to soften into something more like a memory of a dream than an actual sound you had truly heard at all. The carriage feels very quiet now. You look around slowly, taking stock the way you might after waking from a long, strange sleep, and find that almost all the other passengers are gone. The woman with the paperback has vanished at some point without your noticing, her book left behind, closed and resting neatly on the seat where she'd been. The young couple's seats stand empty too, no blanket, no suitcase, nothing at all to mark that they were ever there. Only the elderly man remains, still asleep near the front of the carriage, his breathing slow and even, undisturbed by anything the night has offered so far. You feel, strangely, no alarm at any of this. It seems by now only natural. The quiet continuation of something the whole night has been gently preparing you for, one empty seat at a time, one soft absence after another, until the carriage holds little more than you. The sleeping stranger up front of the wide, dark window still sliding past the last of the night scenery. A soft sound beside you makes you turn, and you find the conductor lowering himself into the seat across the aisle, moving with the same slow, unhurried care he's shown all night. He settles in with a quiet sigh, folding his gloved hands together in his lap, and for a while, he simply looks out the window alongside you, saying nothing at all. You're wondering where this train is headed. The conductor says eventually, his voice low and warm, carrying none of the former briskness he used back at the platform. It isn't quite a question. You nod, though you find, somewhat to your own surprise, that the wondering has softened considerably over the course of the night, less an urgent need to know, and more a distant, unpleasant curiosity, the kind you might feel about a dream you weren't in any hurry to wake from. This train doesn't travel between countries. The conductor says, the way the timetables might lead you to expect, it travels through forgotten places. Places that have slipped over time between memory and reality. Not quite gone, not quite real anymore either. Somewhere in between. You think of the backward clock at Ash Hollow, the smoking chimneys of the buried village, the endless empty streets of that glowing city, forgotten places. It fits, somehow, more neatly than any ordinary explanation could. Every passenger boards for a different reason. The conductor continues, his gaze still fixed on the dark window, his voice unhurried, patient. The voice of someone who has explained this many times before to many different tired travelers, and has long since found the gentlest way to say it. Some are simply looking for somewhere they can finally rest. Others are trying to leave something behind, a version of themselves perhaps, or a day or a year that they'd rather not carry any further. You listen quietly, the conductor's words settling over you with the same slow, gentle weight as everything else this night has offered. Not quite answers, not quite explanations, but something close enough to comfort that you find you don't need to press for more. No one reaches the same destination, the conductor says after a while, turning finally to look at you with that same weathered, calm expression from the very first platform. Not really. Even two people who board at the same station on the same night, carrying what looks like the same tiredness, they'll each find their own stop in their own time. The train simply carries you until you're ready. And if no one calls my name again, you ask, your voice quiet, half swallowed by the low of the carriage. If I never hear, the conductor's expression softens further. Something almost like a smile touching the corners of his eyes. Then you weren't meant to get off yet. He says simply, that's all. There's no failure in staying aboard a little longer. Some of the longest, gentlest rides belong to passengers who simply need more time before they're ready to arrive anywhere at all. You nod slowly, feeling something loosen in your chest that you hadn't quite realized you were still carrying. Some small, quiet worry you've been holding on to since the very first missed train back at the ordinary station, hours and impossible miles ago now. The conductor's words don't explain everything. They don't explain the reflected figure at the lake, or the shape that walked beside you through the lantern-lit forest, or the extra suitcase that appeared where a passenger once sat. But they don't need to. Some things, you're beginning to understand, simply don't require a complete explanation in order to be gently, quietly accepted. Outside, the darkness has begun, so subtly you almost miss it, to soften at its very edges, not brightening exactly, not yet, but losing some of its earlier depth, some of its earlier strangeness, settling instead into the ordinary, patient dark that comes in the hours just before dawn. The conductor rises slowly from his seat, resting one gloved hand briefly, warmly, on the back of the seat in front of him before turning to make his way back down the aisle. Rest, if you'd like, he says over his shoulder, his voice already softening back into that familiar, formal calm. There's still some way to go before morning properly arrives. No need to watch every mile of it. You watch the conductor's steady figure move away down the aisle and disappear once more to the carriage door, and find, without any particular effort, that your eyes are already growing heavy again, the whole long night's collection of strange and beautiful sights beginning to settle quietly into something more like memory than immediate experience. The backward clock, the smoking village, the endless water, the lantern light, the glowing city, the watching reflection, the golden plain, the floating skyline, the whispered name you let pass gently by. You let your eyes rest, opening them only now and then, slowly, drowsily, to check on the world outside the window, the way you might check on a familiar view, before finally letting yourself drift fully into sleep. Each time you look, the darkness is softened a little further. The deep, impossible black of the night's stranger hours giving way, bit by bit, to something gentler. The first hint of color arrives low along the horizon, not the bright gold of the endless plain, but something softer, paler, a faint wash of gray-blue easing up from beneath the edge of the world. You watch it for a while, half-lidded, feeling no urgency at all to stay fully awake for it, trusting that it will still be there each time you open your eyes again. Small towns begin to appear outside the window, ordinary and unremarkable in the most comforting way imaginable. A scattering of houses with dark, sloped roofs, a church steeple rising modestly above its neighbors, a single traffic light blinking a slow, steady amber over an empty intersection. No fog rolls unnaturally low. No backward clocks hang above the platforms you pass. Just small, sleeping towns, waiting patiently for their own ordinary mornings to arrive. Rolling hills follow, soft and green even in the low gray light, dotted here and there with the shapes of grazing animals, still and peaceful in the cool, early air. A thin mist clings to the low places between the hills, drifting gently along the ground the way morning mist always does. Nothing sinister in it at all. Simply the ordinary breath of the land as it wakes slowly into another day. You notice, somewhere in the midst of this gentle unfolding, that you can hear birds. Faint at first, barely more than suggestion of sound beneath the steady rhythm of the wheels, but growing clearer with every passing mile. The soft, scattered calls of birds greeting the coming dawn. The first you've heard all night. The first ordinary, familiar, entirely unmysterious sound of what feels like a very long time indeed. You breathe it in slowly, that small and simple sound, feeling something settle deep and warm in your chest. The night's long parade of impossible sights has asked nothing difficult of you in the end, only that you watch and wonder and trust conductor's quiet warning and let each strange, beautiful, unsettling thing pass by in its own time, without needing to chase after any of it, without needing to fully understand. The train begins very gently to slow. You open your eyes fully now, watching the last of the mist-covered hills ease past the window as the train's familiar rhythm softens further, the clack of the wheels stretching out into longer, gentler intervals. A small platform comes into view ahead. Ordinary, sunlit at its edges now with the first true warmth of morning. A modest sign standing at its center though you find, quite peacefully, that you don't feel any particular need to read what it says. The conductor appears once more at the front of the carriage, making a slow, familiar way down the aisle, and this time he stops beside you, resting one gloved hand lightly on the seat back just ahead. His weathered face holds that same calm, quiet warmth that has carried all through the night, though something in his eyes now seems softer still, gentler. The particular kindness of someone seeing a long journey safely through to its close. Your stop isn't here, the conductor says, his voice low and easy, entirely without urgency. It isn't a warning this time, only a simple, gentle observation, often the way you might tell an old friend that their turn simply hasn't come yet, and that there's no hurry at all in waiting a little longer. You nod, feeling no disappointment in the words at all, only a slow, warm relief, the sense of being exactly where you are meant to be for just a little while longer, carried onward by something patient and kind that asks nothing of you but rest. The train eases past a little platform without stopping, the morning light catching gently on its empty benches. Its single modest sign, before the whole scene slips quietly away behind you, replaced by more soft green hills, more scattered farmhouses, more of that same golden, ordinary morning light spreading slowly across the waking land. You settle back into your seat, the warmth of the early sun now reaching into the window to rest against your hands, your face, the side of your neck. The birdsong outside has grown fuller now, a whole soft chorus of it drifting alongside the train's steady, unhurried pace. Somewhere far ahead, the tracks curve gently on into the golden distance, promising more quiet miles yet to come before whatever true final stop is waiting for you, whenever you are finally, truly ready to find it. Your eyelids grow heavy one last time, and this time you let them close fully without resistance, without any small flicker of wakefulness pulling you back. The gentle rhythm of the rails continues beneath you. Clack, 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 clack. Soft and steady and endless, carrying you onward into sunrise, into rest, into sleep. The train continues on, gently, into the morning light, for as long as you need it to.